Hello to everyone, this is Vishal, and again we are new session of the day. And as we have done with the MVVM part 1, so we have to continue that session, and this is your MVVM part 2. So in which we can learn that how we can implement the repositories and how we can call the APIs in that, and those interaction with the view models. So as we have done with the view models, that how we can create a view model in previous session with the local JSONs. So now we have to go with your JSONs in repository. We have to go with your APIs call on the repository, and then we call it here. And as we already discussed that previously, that how we can interact with the view and view model like that, and we have done with the data bindings, and also we can create a separation of the layers. So here, as one more time, that is the view, we have a view model and that model, and then these to be interact with your repository now. Okay, so for that, as already discussed, that the what is the view model. The view model is a key component of the model view model MVVM architecture pattern, and it is used to design the separation of the concerns. That means you do not go with any functionality inside the UI side. So that means uh, you have to create a lightweighted processes. So means you are everything, you have to work every functionality, every function you have to create inside the view model, and we do the bindings and lot of things there, and then we call it in the view. Just you have to represent in the view, and also just taking the input in the view only in UI side, and every calculation, every functionality you have to work under the view model. Means if you go with any languages, and if you are using the MVVM, either the Android, Swift, or other, so means in the new technology as well as Jetpack, or your Flutter. So these all MVVM approaches are the same. Okay, so everything should be under the view model, and here we have to create a separate file in which we call the APIs, that's called repository, and then the same way we can call the repository under the view models, and that view model to the view. So that means we can separate all the layers. So see the practical how we can do this. That start the practical here, and for this first we need to create few groups. So I'm creating the first group as in the model. These contains our models whatever we will create, and the second group I am creating for the view models. Under that we can interact those models with the view models, and the third is your whatever be the API we called it, and we can use it under the repository. Okay, so these three be here, and if you want to create one more for the view, so this file you have to put it under the view. So if you want, then you can you can go with that, otherwise leave it. Or if you want, so you can create views also. Okay, so under that you can put all your Swift UI views. So these four main basic groups we needed for our MVVM approaches in Swift UI. The model here, and for this model first we need to create one model inside, and that is a simple new file, and that new file should be a Swift file. Okay, so I'm giving a name to this employee model. Okay, so this is our very simple model class as in a Swift file. So this is our EMP model we will create. Here we need some JSON calls or API calls. I will describe you both ways how you can use it, the JSON, and as well as your own JSON, or as well as our remote APIs. So both ways we will do that, and this is our repository. Okay, so here I'm creating one more file, that is the Swift file, and this is your EMP repository. Okay, so once your repository we created, you just go for the view model and then create the again new file, and I'm giving the name to this file as an emp view model. So all the files ready, and now we'll start the work for the MVVM. Okay, so here it is employee model. So first we go for that the models, and we create one model here. So here this is the class for emp, or you can give it employee model, and as discussed we need it as an codable and as identifiable. So these to be needed for this model. Okay, so for this we create as a codable and comma identifiable, this to be important. And now we go for let id, and it should be int, let name as we have done before, so this is a string, and let email, it is also be the string. So this is done, our model is created. Now we have to go for our repository. So for the repository class, what we need to make a simple class emp repository, and under that we will create function. And for the function, that means we need to create one function in which we will use our JSON, and the other function in which we can use the API. So first we create a function call with your JSON. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. Okay, so let's start with the function. As whatever function we created on previous as in the previous examples of the MVVM approaches, so there we have used it under the view model or under the view. So here I'm making it separate, and that separate I will call that function in the view model. So here emp repository, we will create first function that depends on our own JSON data, and then after that I will create one more function that will create the API calls. Okay, so I will describe you on both ways. So first we'll check our older way, whatever we have done with the MVVM first time on my previous video. Okay, so here you can use that get employee, and that employee viewer by our JSON. Okay, and here the most important thing is, if you want to use the escaping, that is good, otherwise I will describe you later. But here what you needed, you just go for the escaping, and that means we need a completion escaping here. So for that what we require, so you can use it at escaping. Yes, and that escaping should be that whatever be our model here, we will call it, and this is your employee view model, and it should be a void kind. Okay, so that means whatever be our model, it should be a void kind of model we are using. Okay, so this is a very simple structure whenever you call it. Okay, and now the same we are doing that as per our JSON. You can use that JSON here, and that JSON be like this. And below that part we can use our ID, it should be 1, then we have a name, whatever be our employee model, according to that we are make it same. This is Vishal, and email and it should be vishal@gmail.com. So this is a very simple structure we are using here, and the same whatever we have our JSON data, we can decode it. Like you can say that let JSON data, and we have to decode this data, and it should be point UTF-8, and once it's done you have to call your imply and then decode it based on your model. But important thing is here we are using the completion, so how we can use that, so let's see. Okay, so once the JSON data we created, we need to make it that completion be here, so we can use one employ. Otherwise you can use our previous ways as we have done in our previous sessions. So here it is try, and this is your JSON decoder, and it should be decode whatever be our employee model dot self, and our data should be JSON data. Okay, so once it's ready, that's our employee be ready, but we need to make it that it is done on the completion of this call. Okay, so that's the way we can use this repository. So for this repository call, because of it is separate, and inside that we can create multiple function. Means if you have a like this API, I will show you that how we can call the API also. So this is the first function for the API, then we have to call the other APIs. So you can apply all the APIs in your uh, repositories, and then you can create models according to that if needed on one model multiple repository. So that means m to 1, 1 to m to m, so whatever you can use it, you can achieve it like that. So it should be a separate, so separation of layers means we can make it the employee model based on that model and then repository also. So here we are using that employee model in the repository, and then now we can use that repository be here. If you want to use directly the model here, you can use that, but the separation you must make separate your APIs be there. Okay, so every functionality related to your calculations for the inputs, or you whatever you get it from the API, so the API should be whatever you want it or you want to send it. So everything should you have to do under that this EMP model. So you can use this employee model be here, employee EMP view model. So this is our class, and now we can create instance for this repository inside the view model. So let's see how we can do that. So as per my previous session, what I describe you, that means whatever be your model, you can make it your observable object. In future I will describe you the what simple observable, how we can use it. Okay, so but here we can use observable object, and for this what required, we required a published, and what published, that is your employee. For that I want a data, and it should be your EMP view model, and that view model should be a nil. Because of here I am using the simple object, not a array. Okay, so as we did the same we are doing like that, but here whatever we had done in the view model, all the calculation we shifted to the repository. Okay, so now what we need it, you can say that private, and then let repository, and better you can give the name to that repository, and it should be employee EMP repository. Okay, so here two things we have done, and now we have to create one function which we call, this is your loading the employee. Okay, so here we are loading that load employee, and it should be sync as we have done, and for the better process, and you can say that repository emp repository dot get employee json. So it is a void kind. I'm not doing anything, I just call it simple. So once that emp repository get apply json be here, and you can uh, call it like you can say that employee dot or you can say that emp in. So we can explore this. Okay, so emp in, I'm making it in dispatch in a one line, main dot async. Okay, so this is our code, and inside that what to do, you just say that self dot, we have other approaches, but I want to make it simple here. So that means what you have done, whatever be the load imply be there, your repository call there, so it is a void kind. So when I call it, I just explore this using the emp in dispatch queue, and this is your self employee with the employee. So that means inside that we can fetch the data of that employee. So that's the way you can call this load implies async. And now what we have to do for the view, so for the view I'm using one more view inside that. So you can create one file, new file here, and this is our Swift UI. So this is Swift UI view. Okay, so I'm making it is the employee view. So once all done be there, we have all the MVVM approaches. Now we have to call this view model here and then show the employee. So let's see how to do. Okay, so if you see that here we have a view, we have a repository, we have a view model, and that is a simple model. So first we create our model. Using that we have to create a simple JSON, and then with the same ID, name and email with same variables we are using, otherwise decode issues with there, and then simple completion decode we have using the escaping. This is our simple app repository. That repository we have to call as a view model, because of before that we are using inside the view model everything, but now you have to make the API calls or these kind of things be separate in the repositories. Okay, and now we have to call this emp view model inside that view, so we can simply call it. Okay, so here as we have done with the state object, so the state object be needed for this. Okay, so as we have done previously many times, that how we can call the view model. So for that we need a state object, and the state object is doing like the same thing. It's hold the variable values, but it's for complete app, but in the state we are using for one UI. Okay, so once the state object be ready, you can say that this is our private variable emp view model, and it should be imply view model. So in a single line we can hold all the model value be here. Okay, so that's the way we can using the state object. And now we can use v stack, and inside that we can put this text. Okay, now what is the use of this? So first we can say that if let emp is equals to imply view model dot imply it, we have to show the whatever be the value related to emp dot name, and also make it as emp dot email. Okay, these two things I want to show it as we have done previously. And you can see that this is your task, and under the task what we needed, you say await, and this is your emp view model dot load imply. So what's this function we call? You can see that on the right side the json values become here. So it's a very easy approach. So this is your simple repository we have created. This is our view model, and then we call it here in the view. So that's the way you can use the emp view model. Okay, and one more thing I will explain to you after this. You can use the employee repository, and under that we will call the api here. And once the api done, so how we can achieve it, let's see. Okay. Okay, so let's start with the API, and here we need a get employee by API call, and follow it the same whatever we have done the above, just copy paste it, and let's there we using the JSON. Here we need to capture the data. Okay, so for that we need a guard as we have done in our previous session. If you see, watch that, and here we can use the URL, and that is your string kind, and the string is your at this time we are using some open APIs, so you can also test the same. So these are HTTPS, and here we have one API call, that is JSON place holder type code, I think it is the name. We'll see if it is anything wrong here. This is .com, and we need a one post, so you can go for the post and the first one. Okay, so this is our guard, and let it is, or else we can use it that it is not be like that, so we can make our compilation be nil. Okay, this is your simple guard. And if you want to go for the URL session dot shared dot async, sorry, dot data task. Okay, so for this what we need it, we need to go for this URL. Okay, and you can use it or not handler. If you want to go for the handler, you can use, otherwise no need of this. Okay, so I will describe you how to use the handler on the second case. So here we can use a data comma response, but no longer needed the response, and this is our error, and you can say in, and if let data is equals to data, so you can go for the data. Okay, and for the data you can say let we can create any object. So here I'm creating the employee, and you can say the try, and for that we need a JSON decoder as we have done above, dot decode, and this is your employee model dot self, the same as we have done above, and the data should be your data whatever you are capturing from the API. So this is the way you can do this. And the other is for dispatch queue dot main dot async, and the data is your what we needed, this here completion, and completion for what? For employee. So that means this data we need it. If we go with the whatever be our decode values, or otherwise you can go for the this is your data. Yeah, I think that's enough. Or see where is the mistake. It's saying that it we consider the return. Okay, so here the issues with return, you have to return that. And for this data you can say that if it is under else, you can say that this is the completion and this is called a nil. So it means this is the way you can call your function. You must return that, otherwise it's throwing the error. And here we have a guard for this post. So this is the way our API be ready. So on employee view model we have to call this API here. So we have to create one function to call this API call here from repository. That's the way you can interact with the model to repository and include the simple model in both the classes. This API. So for this, what to do, you just create one function that is called a func load employee API. Okay, so and make it async because of we need a await on view. So this is a very simple. You can go for employee repository dot get repository emp repository. Okay, so that this is the two functions we have done. So this is we have to call using the API. Nothing we are passing here. I will describe you how we can use the errors for it means how to handle the errors using this completions also, but here I'm just considering a simple. And here you can say that employee in dispatch queue dot main, because of we are using there the same, and the code is self dot employee, we are using the same as above, and this is your emp employee. Better for difference you can create a one. Okay, so this is the way you can call this repository here, and then you can use this view model in your view. So for that, what to do, I'm just instead of using this task, I'm calling employee view model 2, that is the load API calls. Okay, so let's see what be the result. Okay, so hide this and use the new one, await emp view model dot load API. And for this, one more thing, we have done this is the users, not the post. Okay, so that's the something wrong in that, so we are using this. So this is the URL we are using. Okay, so let's see, we run the device and then see what be the result. So here we refreshed again, and you can see the result of the output, whatever be the API we are getting. uh, that is the final one using the MVVM. Okay, so let me describe you one more approach. It is with the error. Okay, so previous one whatever we have done, that is with the without error, and here I am using the error as we have done on our previous sessions. If you watch that my previous tutorial, where we are fetching the data only for the API without retrofit and MVM approaches there, but here we use this is the response and data response and error, all three together we are using. And the same for the error, if you want go to, if you want to show the error or likewise, so you can do that with this. Okay, so this is also be the same as we have done before. So uh, either use this or whatever we have created before, both are we are getting the result of API using MVVM approach in Swift UI.